You cannot afford to miss a single moment of the next hour. Get ready to have your ideas about sexuality, love, and relationships blown wide open. It's time to get educated, entertained, and enlightened, as well as sexually empowered. You have now tuned into the Tantra Love, Sex, and Intimacy Show. Now, here's your host, Tanya Diamond.
Hello, everybody. Yes, I know you're all thinking, she's going to say, I'm really excited. And yes, I'm really excited. Today I'm really excited because most of today was cloudy. And that made me really excited. Because you know what? I didn't move here for the endless sunshine. I'd live in Tonga if I wanted to live in endless sunshine. And, you know, regardless of what they say about Seattle, it's been endlessly sunny for how long? When's the last time we had any rain? I'm ready for it. I have Josh here back from his... were you here last week, Josh? Did I forget about that? You were.
Yeah, last week I was here. I had come back from Connecticut the week prior.
Sorry
from
about that. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, right. So
I'm glad you noticed that I'm here now.
I only noticed Josh is here now because my feet are in his lap, and I think while he's not writing, he's giving me a foot rub. Josh happens to be an excellent massage therapist.
Thank you, I am.
Yeah, so you could always call in and ask him about massage type things as well.
I'll answer questions. I'll even book appointments.
There we go. Yeah, call in to make an appointment with Josh for a massage. We're going to have a guest coming up here in just a little while. Kat Williams will be calling us, and I'll wait and let her tell you what she's calling us about and what she's all about when she calls. If you're out there, Kat, you can call us anytime. We're ready to hear from you. So what do we have going? Team Tantra, what's happening in the world?
What's happening in the world? I think communication is one of the key things that's happening right now. How do we understand or misunderstand each other?
Yeah.
How do we call for being challenged and brought up to our physical, emotional, spiritual accountability, and then when it's in our face, we turn and run? Is it that easy to knock us off our mission?
No.
No,
not us.
Not us. But how often in our lives do we find someone we know and love, or our reality in general, our job or unemployment, what have you, challenges our resolve to stay in the game?
Well, you know, communication is one of those funny things where people think that while they're talking, they're communicating.
Yeah.
And that's not always the case.
No.
What is it? Communication is the result?
Right. And the process is listening and talking.
So, you know, if you're communicating correctly, then maybe there'll be a result.
Right.
You know, I've got an ex that's kind of in fantasy land that I talk about every once in a while on the radio.
Yeah, I got some words written down for that.
And he has no communication. And Kat is with us. Hi there, Kat. Greetings. How are you?
I'm excellent. How's everyone out there?
Doing great. Hi, Kat.
Hi.
That's Josh.
Hi, Josh.
Hi there.
Yes, I know who that is. I
We know
recognize
each
the
other
voice.
well.
He wouldn't miss the voice. Actually, I think he's going by Joshua these days.
Am I?
Oh, sorry, Joshua. Do you talk differently with braces on the radio?
I do. I do my best not to get caught up in the microphone.
Every once in a while, you see him hanging off the edge of the mic there,
Right.
going, "Can we get me off of here?"
You always want to talk to men or women who are in their adulthood who have braces to ask about the other questions you can't really ask teenagers.
Right.
What effect braces have on your life
So,
in the whole?
Joshua.
Our life in
No, what kind of effect are your braces having? You know,
on my
on those
my
things that we wouldn't ask teenagers.
love life.
Yeah.
Well, I'm a person who's technically careful, and so I find the braces don't get in the way of
Technically careful? What is that?
kissing.
What does that mean?
I find the braces don't get caught up in any hair per se.
Really?
The things like, what's it really like with that? I've used them a little bit for texture, like, you know, if you're in those moments where you're biting on someone's shoulder, you could also just press the braces against the skin, maybe move a little bit, and that creates some gentle texture, which so far the results are good.
How do you not get hair caught in there?
I'm bringing the trimmer over next time. Is this the question that you had in mind, or am I on the wrong track?
No, that's definitely what I was referring to.
Excellent,
Absolutely.
excellent.
Yeah.
You know, realistically, as a guy, the mouth itself is more facing up, and most of the time, you know, because the things that we're going after
he's only
are
got
north.
braces on
I've
the
only
top.
have braces on the top right now, and on the bottom, the lip really covers it pretty sufficiently. So, you know,
Questions you always want to know.
Yeah, you can get more if you want. If you want to really nail me down on a specific that you'd like me to answer, go for it. But if I haven't answered it yet,
in general,
I think it was more of a general reference, and I think that was a great answer.
You just wanted to see if I was going to squirm on the radio, right?
Or if Billy was going to have to hit the dump button 15 times.
I love it.
He was
Thank you
ready.
so much for the question.
He was standing there ready to roll. All right, so Kat, I introduced you, but what do you do? What's up? Tell
primarily I'm an intuitive body worker, or intuitive body work specialist, depends on how you want to say it. I like body worker. And I move energy blocks in people's bodies.
Lovely.
And help them go on to the next level, whatever it may be for their life.
Okay, so and you can do this like far away?
I don't do it far away. I can do clairvoyant readings far away, long distance, over the phone or even via email, as long as I have someone personally telling me about themselves so I can get some of their energy.
Wait a minute, but if we're telling you about yourself, how is it clairvoyant?
Now, be nice to
Not their life story, per se. More like, here's the general gist of my deal.
So like Josh told you about his braces now. Can you have a little bit of a read on him?
What I usually do for a reading would say, tell me your name, full name 3 times. Because with Josh, it's very hard. I've kind of closed off so that we could have a conversation not in that realm.
Right. Awesome. So that answers that question, that you can choose when you feel and when you don't.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I had to go to school to learn that, though.
Oh.
It was pretty surprising when I started being able to see guides and just various things around in my normal life, and I didn't know how to turn it off. And that happened in adulthood, so it was very trippy. And I moved out to Denver to find a school so I could learn some tools, which, for anyone looking for tools of any kind, which I know that your team offers many of, I highly, highly recommend it.
Tools? What type of tools?
Any tools that you might need. So for me, I needed meditation tools. I needed professional psychics to tell me, what I could expect or what may happen as my skills develop, and how to, I wouldn't say control it, but, pay attention or not pay attention or protect myself from overload of energy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, a tool's only useful if you can put it in the toolbox from time to time and walk around the house.
That's right. And if you have, I really was thinking about this before I got on air, is that, spiritual tools are spiritual tools, and I'm sure that some of the things that you're teaching are things that I learned just along the way in a different realm. They didn't have the label Tantra.
Right.
But, all spiritual tools are pretty much universal as our spiritual principles, and it's very interesting to see how it plays into every part of your life once you actually have a tool in your toolbox, as you say.
Indeed. Yeah, we all have tools, whether they're unconscious or conscious. We're programmed with tools from birth, and most of the tools that we have we're using unconsciously because we didn't even know we had them. So I think that's really where the difference comes when you make a conscious choice of what it is you're going to do. But, okay, so I'm curious now, if I were to put myself out there, would you do like a mini thing with me?
I could.
Could you? Would you be comfortable doing that? I am.
Yeah, absolutely. I was actually trying to tap in a little bit when I was grounding and getting ready, and I actually tapped into a past life of yours, and I wouldn't say one, I would say many.
Doom, 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 doom.
So if you're open, I'll go ahead and tell you what I saw.
I am so open. Bring it.
Okay.
Wait, hang on. Does it have a lot of sex involved in it?
Yes.
Okay, let's do it.
Let me say it this way.
Wait, I got Was I there?
It has to. Go ahead, Jeff.
I'm sorry. Was I there?
He wants to know if he was there.
I didn't look, actually. I didn't look, but I'll pay attention if I see it again as I'm rolling through
if you see my shining
images.
face.
Right. Interestingly enough, the question that I had asked was, why are you doing what you're doing? I wanted to know why you're so out and open and vocal about sex and sexual ignorance and sort of your mission that you state on.
This would be great, yeah, because people ask me this kind of question all the time.
Well, if you want to talk about a karmic perspective, it's coming around and closing a karmic circle for you of many, many lifetimes of celibacy that you really got into the fine points of spirituality and being alone. So when you were talking about the sect of Tantra or the group of Tantra that practices abstinence, it's obvious that wouldn't appeal to you from my perspective because you've been there and done that in numerous forms, in numerous lifetimes.
Excellent. So that's not the sex part. That's the no sex part.
That's the no sex part. But, it's the opposite end of the spectrum. When you're talking about karmic circles, you have, one extreme to the other extreme would be both sides of the circle. Or, can't really say sides of the circle, but you see what I'm saying.
Right.
So you have this lifetime in which you're doing very much the opposite. The only other option primarily would be prostitution.
Well, I was going to say, what is let's qualify this. The opposite of celibacy is nymphomania.
Well, so you have different variances, I guess. Of there definitely were some. I mean, I definitely saw a prostitution lifetime in there.
Awesome.
So you've had experiences with, like I say, both sides of the spectrum before. This time, your purpose is to come and to really serve as many people as possible. So it wasn't just for you to come and experience what you wanted to experience in regards to sex and sexual energy. It was for you to really spread the message because of the time in history that this is so pivotal where everyone's energy is shifting. You came at this time so that your message could really get out there in a way that it couldn't have 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And you couldn't spread the message if you had chosen different facets, like we were saying, prostitution, straight nymphomania, where you only were practicing within your life.
Right.
So
I'm on the right track.
There you have it. Yeah,
Excellent.
You're doing great.
You're doing exactly what you're doing right now. I'm sorry.
We're cheeky.
That was awesome, Kat. I really to draw the picture and see that perspective. The lifetimes completing the circle, but also completing the yin and yang of that whole experience.
Right.
I really enjoyed hearing how you put that.
And absolutely, I'm glad you brought the yin and the yang because when we're talking about past lifetimes, for people who don't delve into reincarnation very much, you don't always reincarnate as the same sex. Mm-hmm. Or you may reincarnate as the same sex, but carry your sexual energy in a very different way. And so, there is a huge experimentation. If you want to just look at reincarnation and learning lessons about sexual energy, you can be a man who's very feminine, you could be a woman who's very masculine, or you could just be a straight-up man and a straight-up woman in the sense of carrying your energy in that regard. So if, from what I take of Tanya from listening to your show, you are really adept at handling both sides of that energy.
Thank you. That's been a practice of mine.
And it makes sense. When I'm looking at your past life history, you've had, you want to talk about practice, you've had practice. You've really explored. So it's great.
Awesome. Well, I certainly what I'm doing it doesn't feel like a job. It doesn't feel like a calling. It actually feels like a mission. There is no doubt in my mind that what I'm doing is what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah.
It's not, there's really no option.
Right.
There were a few times I've been thrown off or, created myself to be thrown off the path. And inevitably, and it took a 2x4 to the head, was a car accident actually in 91 to kind of kick me back on the path. But it's just been clear sailing that this is what I'm supposed to do.
Right.
And, I've been, I ask here, I'll answer a question that people ask me a lot, which is, I work a lot with relationships, helping people in long-term relationships stay in passion and stay in the relationship. And I get that question, well, but you've never been in a long-term relationship. How can you tell me how to be in one? Because let me tell you, I have experienced everything that could ever go wrong in a relationship. Because I haven't just been with one person. A lot of people that are just in one-person relationships can tell you a lot about their dynamic.
Right.
Kind of an accelerated learning program.
Yeah, I was in the accelerated learning program. I've been left and have left every possible way that there probably is, with the exception of killing somebody or being killed. It's like the breakups I've had have been varied and textured, and the issues within the relationships have generally they're pretty close to the same, but different types. And it's just not the same. I'm sorry, but quite different. it's been really an interesting journey. And every time something happens, I think, now this gives me even more, another tool, another resource when I'm talking to somebody in relationship or somebody having a problem that I can draw on.
Kind of like speed dating, but it's speed living.
That's it, Tantra, living Tantra, speed living.
Well, it's funny. I was looking over my notes when I first contacted you, I was telling you that I had thought long and hard about having some workshops for people here in the Denver area on spiritual sexuality. And what you're saying holds so true to what I was reviewing and what I feel are really spiritual principles that pertain to sexuality. But through life experience, you learn the basics. I don't care if you're in a long-term monogamous relationship or if you're never in a long-term monogamous relationship, because every relationship, whether it's with yourself or with a partner or with a parent or with a lover, they all come down to the same components. And so if you can master those components, and one of those being trust, and, then you absolutely can counsel other people on relationships of any nature.
Well, it's like I tell people, it's not that what I am is a sexual intimacy expert. I mean, and sexual intimacy is one of the major components that we have going wrong.
Right. In
relationships, whether they're short or long term today. And raising our children, how we're raising our children in a weird space around that. I had a call the other day from a client who said to me, he just realized he had been in this 4-year relationship and he couldn't understand why he kept being in it, even though it didn't seem right. And as it came down to it, as I talked to him more, I found out it was a procreational sex relationship, meaning that they had intense sexual chemistry, opposite type of immune system, where they could not stay away from each other, even though the relationship was clearly not working. So the biology, the evolutionary drive of that biology to create a child was overrunning everything else.
Right. Great sex, but a very challenging.
Right. Not even, not even so much great sex. I mean, they had great sex, but it was just more like the intensity that they felt, because there was second chakra energy. It was
second
must
chakra,
be
the
together.
The chemicals, the pheromones matched
have
up
baby.
so well.
Right. And so he kept thinking, wow, and then he wove this whole story about how they must be perfect and in love and all that, even though he said he really didn't feel that. But he just had to have her, like an addiction. And, if we taught our kids when they were hitting puberty that you're going to feel like you would give up your soul to have sex, and it's not about love.
Right.
It's about sex.
And especially women and young girls, because without being taught, it's very hard to draw that line on your own.
Right. Well,
but because emotions for women are so intertwined in their sexuality. So, automatically, if you're 15 and a boy wants to have sex with you, they must love you.
Well, and that's part of what we tell little girls, too, right? Sex is something people do when they're in love.
Right.
No, sex is something.
I personally don't say that, but I know there are people who do.
Sex is something that people do when they're having sex.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's about it. Yeah, sex is something people do when they're having sex. Nice one, Joshua. You always come up with those profound. Should that be a bumper sticker?
Yeah. Sex is not about love. It's about. Anyway, we'll write it down. We'll work it out. We'll make a bumper sticker.
Yeah, it'll happen. It'll happen. And so that there we come back to that. What Joshua and I were talking about first off was communication.
Right.
And, communication, being ashamed or scared or whatever to tell your kids about what happens hormonally to them sets them up, for failure, or sets them up for babies too early, or sets them up for all sorts of things.
And, I've heard it said so many times that people are becoming sexually active at a younger and younger age. And I can witness in my own family, and I know I've heard you tell about stories about your child too, but throwing a little bit of astrology in there, I've read my daughter's astrological chart. I know her personality. I hear the questions that she asks at 4 years old regarding relationships, sex, kissing, things that she sees or things that she hears people talking about, or even on the street. And she is a very sexual person at 4. Mm-hmm. And for me to deny that about her or try to, sort of brush it under the rug until she's 13 would be such a disservice as a parent, in my opinion.
Yes. Well, I mean, and obviously so you're not afraid, you're not sanctioning. Now, let's tell the listeners this, because last time I said something like this, I got slammed. She's not sanctioning that her daughter have sex at 4.
Absolutely not.
No.
But it really opens the door to encourage talking about what's appropriate and what's inappropriate.
Yes.
And for her, it's, what's appropriate. How do you act appropriately with mom or dad or your friends or, your brother?
Right.
For example, because, she's curious.
Right.
And so absolutely to have conversations as soon as they start showing interest, and, as long as you know how to have appropriate conversations, and if you don't know how to have them, find someone who does.
Right.
And take counsel.
I think it's interesting because, my daughter now is, 5.5, and she has already asked that question of so the baby's in the mom's tummy, the mom and father create the baby. How does that actually work? How does that
same question.
happen? So she knows about the penis and the vagina and all of that stuff. And, she asked me the other day, she says, so, Mama, the penis goes there. And she goes, does that hurt? I thought it was a really interesting question.
That is so great.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, really to take it to the next level of
that she actually is thinking about that. And I'm like, well, honey, I said, in the beginning, frequently, it does, but that's something that doesn't stay long. And she's like, oh, okay. That kind of like, but a lot of people are just like, oh my God, I can hear them screaming right now as they're listening to this.
I've had reactions from friends who I've said, we've watched the NOVA program about how babies are made, and it's very clinical. They don't, they describe it and show a lot of computer-generated images, but it's still telling you the story. And, she's seen childbirth. She's seen babies being born, so that she doesn't have this idea that, the stork brings them in.
Right. At the same time, one of my pet peeves about how our society educates with our sexuality, with our sensuality, we don't hit 13 and suddenly we're sensual. Suddenly we're interested.
Right.
It's those places of how do you allow and embrace a child's sensuality because they're experiencing their body, they're experiencing their reality, and not get freaked out about it. Right. Redirect them if they're inviting the wrong type of energy or if they're doing something in the wrong time and place, but to help them explore their world so that when they do find a relationship or an experience, they can maintain their own safety, but they can also be a self-educated person. How many girls in our society hit puberty and they think they're just supposed to let boys grab and grope and poke them? I mean, so whether it's boys or girls, being able to have an environment that's safe to be sensual, redirecting it into music and movement or what have you, but also just those moments where, it's okay to have a body and it's a good thing. Yeah.
And then, just to throw another tidbit in there, what came to mind as you were saying, Josh, is that not only talking about themselves and their sensuality and the feelings they're going to have, but then talking about relationships and how to choose appropriate partners if you do want to explore, as, of course, you're talking about older people now. But,
right.
You have to have that conversation just like you teach them how to choose friends that are trustworthy. Eventually, they have to know how to choose someone who's going to treat them with respect because, it's not a learned behavior, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. No, it's not. I mean, why? Most people think great sex is a natural behavior too, and that's not true. Procreational sex is something you can figure out, but really not long-term intimacy.
Right.
That actually takes some education. Hey, Kat, hang on a second. We're going to go ahead and take a quick break, and we will be back with you. And who knows what else we're going to talk about, because that's always a mystery but you're clairvoyant, you probably know. But hang on to that thought. And we'll come back in just a few minutes.
Are you one of the 40 million sexless couples in the U.S.? Are you wondering why having sex leaves you feeling lonely? Are you suffering from the myths of sexual dysfunction? Do you know in your heart that there has to be more than what you're currently getting out of making love? To rid yourself of sexual ignorance, get more out of your lovemaking, and find out more about spiritual sexual connection, then you need to check out www.thetantrateacher.com to receive your free copy of the ebook called Secrets of the Tantra Teacher. Don't suffer another minute without the sexual loving and ecstatic bliss you were born to receive. Get to www.thetantrateacher.com right now. That's www.thetantrateacher.com.
Is your sex life non-existent? Do sexual dysfunctions leave you soft? Is internet porn getting more than you are? Or are you paying more attention to porn than your partner? Have you tried talk therapy and it got you nowhere? You are not alone. You can be freed from sexual shame, guilt, and dissatisfaction. A visit to the Tantra Teacher is in order. Call now and mention you heard the Tantra Teacher on the radio and get a very special offer. Stop waiting for a miracle and call right now. 206-276-2735. Phone consultations or in person will get you the information you need to be successful in your love life. But you have to call now. 206-276-2735. Stop making excuses. Call the Tantra Teacher. 206-276-2735.
And we are back with Joshua.
Hello.
And our fabulous producer, Billy, over there, who we haven't heard from today yet. Hi, Billy.
Yeah, I've been scared to talk all day.
Have you?
Absolutely.
and Kat Williams on the phone with us from Denver, right, Kat?
I am from Denver.
Excellent. And, okay, so we covered lots of different topics in the first half there, all about sex and my past lives of celibacy and prostitution. Yeah, and I'm not doing that this lifetime.
No.
You're getting paid for sex, but in a whole different way.
Just, yeah, right. Exactly. That's true. I still am getting paid for sex, but not because I'm getting naked with my clients.
That's right.
You're getting paid to have everybody else having sex.
There we go. That's right. So what's that? Is that a pimp? Okay. All right. That's not. Yes.
No, I prefer to call you the middleman.
I'm the middleman. Nice. Okay.
That's what our society's built on. So, why not join the club?
The middleman. Yeah, there are going to be franchises out there pretty soon. Anyway, unfortunately, some people will hear this and let's totally go off and get the wrong impression. I know. It's pretty.
Nowadays, you have to go to the grocery store to get your food. You have to go to the Tantra Teacher to have sex.
There you go.
With somebody else.
Right, with somebody else. Sorry, thank you for clarifying that.
See, that's how
Again, she's just the middleman.
That's right. That's how we get in trouble with these things, Joshua.
Just the educator.
All right.
Just the educator.
Okay, yes, I'm an educator.
This is a clothing on school.
Exactly. So then, Kat, tell us more about your intuitive body working, because it sounds a little bit like what I do with sexual healing work, and I'm curious about it. So lay it on us.
I'm really glad you asked, because that was where I wanted to go.
Excellent. Oh, see, I'm clairvoyant too. Psychic.
Let's go there. So let's go together. Okay. Middleman and all. Let's go. So what I do basically is a combination of what I like to say massage and Reiki, because most people are familiar with both of those forms of body work.
Right.
So I do some hands-on and a lot of energy work, and I don't, like a massage therapist, touch your entire body, but I do work as a massage therapist does, where basically you're either nude in underwear or whatever under a sheet using oil, because I have to feel around your body to feel where you're holding energy, and then I find the release trigger and work the 2 points together, and usually that's when I start seeing either energy from this lifetime that someone's holding on to, or past life energy. And lately it's been a lot of past life energy, and people are working through stuff, just like you're talking about, coming on a mission and powering through, and what I was saying about you touching a lot of people's lives. People in general are having huge lessons coming at a rapid pace, and so they're clearing energy at a more rapid pace, and if they're not clearing it, then they're having ailments because they're not releasing it. And ironically, whether I'm doing clairvoyant readings or whether I'm doing the body work, sexual energy is something that I've always naturally picked up on. And specifically, I've started to work with some people, especially if I see things in their astrological chart that may indicate that they have high levels of sexual energy. And I did check Tony Robbins' chart, and he does not have that in his chart.
He doesn't have,
even though he works with it.
He doesn't have high levels of sexual energy.
He doesn't have that as a lesson about learning how to use his sexual energy.
Ah, okay. Because, I was about 10 feet away from him for 4 hours at the Experts Academy in early June.
Right.
And it was kind of interesting because, though he certainly, lives in a state of arousal, in an arousal type of not just, I'm not talking genital arousal. When I talk arousal, I'm, speaking from the whole body. It was interesting that, I didn't, because he's what I aspire. I aspire to be the next Tony Robbins, except I want to bring sex to the stage.
Right.
I want to talk about the sexual energy aspect, not just the sex. Sorry. See, there I am again.
Right.
We're not saying having sex on the stage.
Yeah, I'm not going to bring having sex on the stage.
Educating, inspiring people about...
There we go again.
There are some back alley theaters. If they want to see sex brought to the stage, I'm sure they can find this.
Right, it's already there.
It's already there. Here we have a place in Seattle, but so there it is. So you look at him and you say that's not his. It's not a lesson he has in this lifetime. He already can. If he's working with sexual energy, he's working with it in regards to what I would say in his chart. Particularly is social, his lessons in the social arena. Mm-hmm. So he's using it as a tool. But, the other people that I have seen that I've asked to work with them specifically are when they have planets in their house of sexuality. And so, it's dialoguing with them about, let's talk about your sexual energy and how have you been using it? And has it been serving you? And if not, are you interested in perhaps learning how to do that? And, learning how to run your energy through your whole body and recognize it and call it at will. And knowing, as you say, to live in a state of arousal, but use it to your advantage versus, being out of control. Right. Yeah, because I get asked all the time, well, how is it that you run around just horny all the time? And it's like, no, it's not. When I'm talking about running around in a state of high arousal, I'm not talking about running around horny all the time.
Right, that's when I was a teenager.
Right, I'm talking about running around aroused, full body, bring it all through the senses aroused.
Right.
And the thing is that, my arousal is nobody else's responsibility. Most people, when they're aroused or turned on, it's like they're looking for somebody to make accountable for this action and do something about it or with it.
And that is one of the things that's so phenomenal in the body work that I do, because as soon as you start, you ask someone, go ahead and feel your sexual energy. And the way that I see it, I can see their second chakra light up. And then I'll say, okay, so I can see that you're feeling it now, so let's try and pull it up from where you're feeling it into your heart. Mm-hmm. And as you start training them or showing them how they can pull it up through their entire body, it no longer is that I have to go out and have sex energy. Mm-hmm. It's like you're saying, it's the state of arousal and heightened awareness and feeling of power and feeling of exploration and all the things that you feel, but in such a muted way when you keep it in your second chakra.
Well, it's muted, but it's intense.
Right.
When men are learning ejaculation mastery, they're always freaking out because it's like, well, how am I going to hold all that energy? And it's like, well, it'll be intense to begin with because, that's a lot of energy you've got in one place. I mean, we're talking about procreational, create the universe energy. That's big energy. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Having to move it through your body. So how do you help your clients do that? Move it.
Well, I do a lot of visualization work because not everyone who comes to lay on my table, so to speak, does any type of meditation, or if they do, or if they are familiar with the, chakra terms, they don't necessarily know about running their energy through their body. So they might know about chakras and that they have them, or they might know, be familiar with what sexual energy feels like, but not necessarily how to move through their body. So for most people, you can use visualization as the basic tool, just walking them through, okay, so if you look at your sexual energy and where it is right now, describe where you're feeling it. And they'll describe it, so they're feeling it inside as well as getting a picture.
Hey, wait, I was going to do that for you.
Okay, go ahead.
All right, let's do it. So, okay, what am I doing? Describing where I feel my sexual energy. Okay. So, I'm feeling it. If I'm feeling it in my genitals up the back of my spine, actually, it's stopping about midway in my spine right now. So I am still carrying it right now in the lower half of my body.
And this is what I'd like to mention is primarily how it rests.
Okay.
I mean, that to me, when I see that, is sexual energy at rest. So it's sort of in its home base, waiting to be called upon. And, when you ignite it, say, you see someone on the street who's very attractive.
I'm going to put a picture up here that's going to ignite me. Okay, you ready?
I'm sitting here right in front of you. What are you? What do I've massaged your feet already.
Ox liver.
Do I have to take my shirt off or something?
There you go. Yeah. Well, that would do it.
Go ahead.
So you can take his shirt off. And so I'm igniting my sexual energy here up. It's
she's looking at pictures.
It's all,
she's looking at me.
It's up now. It's all the way up to the front of my face.
Now you're atypical, because if I would have asked, for example, Billy to do that, if I say, Billy, think of, a picture of a woman that you'd like to fantasize about.
Yeah.
That doesn't take very long.
Okay.
It doesn't take long, but what I'm seeing, if I would describe, Billy, you can affirm or discount this, but I'm seeing you lit up probably just to your chest area and mostly feeling it like whooshing out the front of you.
Okay, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
So, Tanya, you're very unusual because you're familiar with the energy, and so when you want to call it up, you call it up fully.
Yeah.
But notice most of it's still going up.
Yeah, well, actually, it's out my fingertips now and out my toes and out the crown. I'm feeling it vibratingly expanding off of my body.
My toes are tingling, by the way.
So I think it would be more accurate to show the listeners what I'm doing if I would ask Billy.
Okay, let's ask Billy. All right, Billy, you're on.
To go ahead and feel that sexual energy, but drawing it up from your chest area all the way up to your mouth. So when you imagine that now not only are you seeing this woman, but you're actually thinking and fantasizing about kissing her.
Okay.
Then you can feel the energy start coming up to get ready. You're going in for the kiss, and it's probably already going down your arms and into your fingers.
I don't know whether that's just as soon as you say that, it happens, a little tingling. I don't know. It
the
might
power
just
of
be my
suggestion,
body.
or you're actually... Well, I'm
Exactly.
actually saying it because I'm watching you. So
Okay.
that's why I'm saying it that way.
He's looking at me. What's he doing looking at me? Wait.
If you're watching me, should I be flexing? Or...
I see the inside.
Uh-oh.
Much more sexy than anything you get on the outside.
Okay. Cool. That's cool.
So the basic idea is working with where they're familiar with feeling their energy, and then having them draw it throughout their body, and then explaining to them how they can use it in different scenarios. And for men especially, which you see in Tony Robbins, you see in guys like James Ray, Donald Trump, I mean, people who have a very strong presence, know about using their sexual energy in business,
mm-hmm.
In partnerships of any kind of, whether it's community partnerships or anything like that. So, it's getting people familiar with what really sexual energy can do for you instead of just being procreational.
Sex. Right. Well,
right.
I teach Tantra for business. And, I do teach people how to use their sexual energy to command a room or to create rapport, whether you want to one-up the boardroom that you just walked into or you want to create a different experience in that boardroom.
That's right. That's right.
And so, people just have such a limited view for the most part that sex, sexual energy, whatever, it's all about sex.
What I'd like to clarify, which maybe the general listener doesn't understand, is we relate sexual energy having to do with our sex organs. When I, in clairvoyant and psychic and metaphysical terms, think of sexual energy as the energy you carry in your natural way, whether it's yin-yang, male, female, however you want to look at it. It's playing with the idea of the female type of sexual energy is different than a male type of sexual energy, and the reality is they have very little to do with sex, except for the sexual act. I mean, you as a woman are much more profound than just your ovaries and everything else.
I'm sure hoping so. I have
sexual
great
energy.
breasts.
That's right. Thank goodness. So So sexual energy, is such a misnomer of it having to actually do with sexual intercourse when it's really about carrying your energy in the male or female that you've chosen to be here in.
And you, of course, then you're probably seeing the thing that I talk about with where lots of relationships go wrong with being none of them being an opposite polarity. Everybody carrying neutral charges, so that it's not a lot of passion happening.
Well, there's that, but there's also people are not in touch with their own way of carrying their energy. For example, I have friends who are very straight, as you would say. They're not homosexual, they're very straight, but yet they carry their energy in such a feminine way. But until you accept that, it's hard to say, you're looking for a woman who carries her energy in this way. And it's not about them having to relearn how to carry it in a masculine way. I mean, they came here to be this way. But then once you're aware that you carry your energy in a feminine way, like you're saying about fighting the neutral dynamic, you have to be aware of who you're choosing.
Right. Though, what I frequently found is so if you have, and let's see, we may be just talking semantics here. If I find men with more what I'm saying, feminine energy, or a little bit more watered down masculine energy,
right?
Generally, I'm tempting to help them be able to dance the dance. It doesn't mean give up your, that part of you, but most women, really deep down, even if they're running a lot of yang, because, gosh knows I've run a lot of yang energy in my life, still want the warrior, still want a man that can bring it. And I think that a lot of strong women are running into that problem today of ending up picking a man that's running more feminine and then ultimately being unhappy. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I would have to say that I completely understand what you're saying, and I do agree with that to a large extent. I also, see the component that when you have two people in a relationship who don't recognize themselves, it's oftentimes they're either looking for someone to complement who they think they are, but they're actually someone else, and they don't say they're that person or that run that way.
Right.
Or they're looking for someone to be just, we're getting into more psychology here, but to fulfill a want or a need from a previous lifetime, a childhood experience. And it's not really the partner that would be true for them and complementary long term. It's more to fulfill a hole, a gap, a weakness, whatever it may be. So there's so much that goes into choosing a partner. And it's, while you may, people who are drawn to very masculine men who tend to be abusive have issues going on there. It's not necessarily that they just want a warrior. It gets a little more complicated.
Of course, right. Yeah. Well, I mean, their self-esteem issues rock in too, as well.
Right.
So
it's
a little touchy.
Yeah, and what comes to mind for me is some of the more sensitive men. That's the quote-unquote nice guy complex if it's out of balance, which is prolific. And so women want to be treated well, and they go and hook up with the jerk. The classic.
That's because generally the jerk is bringing it more.
Well, the jerk is being masculine
being
warrior, and that's
primal. Even if it's a jerk.
That has a much greater primal effect on attraction. And so, how to embrace the sensitivity and be able to rise up into discovering how to be the warrior and maintain those feminine qualities, those more sensitive, embracing yin qualities.
Dance in the dance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's why in the beginning when I encourage people to go and take a class or talk with a mentor or find someone who can help you, because no matter how you naturally carry your sexual energy, learning the opposite or learning, how to complement what you already do can only be a tool in your toolbox.
Of course.
And if you want to really have a fulfilling relationship, the more, like Josh said, the more tools that you have, the better chance you have at being successful.
That is very true. Very, very true. So when you work with people on your table, so you use physical touch and energy. Yes?
Exactly.
That's what you're saying. Okay.
Yep.
And then did you say, are you a licensed massage therapist?
I am not.
Okay. And that, I am not either, though I am on horses. I'm an equine sports massage therapist.
Okay. There's a lot of call for that. Interesting.
Yeah, but I don't use that on horses anymore. I use it on people. So
all beings in a body, in my opinion.
How is that possible? Yeah. Okay. I do let people know that when I'm going to do body work on them that, oh, by the way, I'm not licensed to touch you as a person, but only if you're a horse. So, maybe you were a horse in a past life and we're just working on that. But it's not really what I said.
That gets me off on a whole nother tangent. We don't need to go there now.
No.
We're not going to that lifetime.
Yeah, did I have a lifetime with my horse? Anyway, so I do body work as well with people, hands-on healing, and it's similar to what you're talking about as far as energy. What I have found in the past, people have asked me, well, if you're such a great energy worker, if you can feel me from 3,000 miles away, why can't you heal me from there? And what I have found, and I hear you saying this, is that I think the body needs all the different approaches. I'm a Reiki master as well. I've done tons of different energy work. And usually when I finally get to see somebody, they've tried everything in the world by the time they get to me. I always get the people that this is my last-ditch effort, right?
Yep.
And which is kind of sad. It would have been easier to see them before. But they've had energy work alone. They've had talk therapy alone. They've had body work alone. They've had all of these different components, but never all together.
Right.
And what I do believe that energy work is important. I believe that you need to have the touch on the body for the cellular memory of the body as it is now, and the verbal, because we are verbal, and I also do the eye gaze when I do work.
Right.
So I think that all seeing the person now, and they witness in having a witness in healing, running the energy through the body, holistically actually touching the body, and then hearing and then we use breath and sound.
Right.
So I'm trying to incorporate, or I am incorporating all of those modalities when I work with people. That's kind of where you've come to as well, right?
It is, and I came to it by accident, actually. It wasn't something that I, obviously trained for. I had emailed Josh saying, I don't know anyone else who does this, so do you have any thoughts? Because it's fun to be able to sit in a room and talk about what you're passionate about and what you do, and exchange ideas and improve your own practice. But, by accident, I sort of got to that place where clairvoyant readings were helpful, but they weren't nearly enough for people that I seemed to be attracting in my practice. And once I started touching people, the magnitude of how I could help them was probably 100-fold from what I was doing before in just a reading. Mm-hmm. And I totally believe in what you're saying, because if you're working with energy and you're trying to clear energy blocks from a body, you have to work with the body. Yeah. And the body doesn't get, in my opinion, completely healed, released, or whatever you want to say without actually touching it. I mean, it's a molecular being structure, and that's how it was made. It was made to be touched. We have nerves for a reason.
Right.
And if you can say to someone, feel this spot right here, feel how that's so hard, and this is the picture I'm getting with it, and they say, oh, I totally get that. But not until you touch that spot on their body could they have seen that. Mm-hmm. That's striking. Yeah.
It is. It's true. That's what happens when I'm working too. I'll touch a spot and I'll have something will come to mind to say at that moment, and I just kind of free flow whatever it is that's happening there, and and can you make a sound? A lot of time I'll ask somebody to make a sound. How does that feel? Can you make a sound for that feeling? Because I don't really want them in their head.
Right.
I don't want them in their intellect. I don't want them telling me a story. I want them to feel what it is they're feeling. And then release that energy through sound. That's the type of the kind of work I do. And Josh, you're a massage therapist. What do you have to say about this?
It's always amazing to me with contacting the body what information I can get from the client or what information is elicited. And the difference in that is, as a massage therapist, I'll ask somebody what's going on. I'll put my hand on their back, and I'll say, where exactly does it hurt? And they'll say exactly where your hand is. So informationally, intuitively, being able to go right to a source of pain or blockage. But also as far as eliciting, because of my background, because of my upbringing, I like to say because I grew up around psychologists that I should have an honorary degree in sanity, or lack thereof. But I've always talked with people and through talking elicited what's going on in your life, what's working, what are you wanting help with. Mm-hmm. I've had times where I've had clients say, Josh, I'm paying you once, but I'm getting all this coaching and I'm getting this body work. Right. I'm feeling guilty about that. I said, okay, let's go for a walk and we'll just talk.
Or they can always write you another check.
Yeah, I told them that too. And I found some of the time the information that's available when they're receiving a massage and talking is so much more free-flowing and so much more accurate or targeted.
Right.
Whereas when we just, meet at Starbucks, start going for a walk, or just sit there, on the couch, if you will, the information there, you have to work verbally to get rapport, just with themselves to access those places. What are we working on today? What are the issues? What are the challenges? Versus when we're doing body work, the information I hear intuitively starts to just happen. They'll be laying on the table. I'll be doing the body work. Ask them what's going on. Do you want this to be a talking massage, or do you want to just relax and receive the massage? And if they're going through an issue, I just end up either asking the questions or responding exactly to the experience they're having. So hands-on is such a deeper connection.
Well, I'd like to throw in there that when from a psychic perspective or from an energetic perspective, we all carry around our bubble, that our safe space. And when you're sitting across the table at Starbucks from someone, you're both behind your bubbles. When you're lying on a table and you invite someone to touch you, or you allow them to, whatever, however they are looking at it, you are saying it's okay for them to come into your space. And so you've become vulnerable. And at that time, there is a certain pattern of trust. And so, when people are choosing massage therapists or energy work or whatever, it's very important that they talk to the person first and know that they have some sort of rapport, so that when they actually are vulnerable, that they can go forward and release.
We've got about 3 minutes here, Kat, and I wanted to jump on what you just said for a moment, because in a lot of places, Tantra is a word that's become synonymous with erotic massage and that type of thing. And I just want to let people know that you have to be very careful if you're doing body work that isn't a licensed massage therapist or, something like that, where you pretty well know it's going to be straight up.
Right.
You need to check out about what you're really getting into.
Absolutely.
Always have that conversation ahead of time. Yes, am I getting naked? Okay, that's fine. Are you getting naked? No, that's not okay. Where are you going to be touching me?
I actually have a waiver that people sign so they know exactly what's going to be happening.
That's excellent. Yeah. So, people need to do a little bit more research. What do we have there, Billy? You said 2 minutes. So, Kat, give us your contact information.
Well, I am a referral-based business, so I really have an email and a phone number. My email is intuitivelifecenter@yahoo.com, and my phone number is 720-272-7849.
And say your phone number again for us.
720-272-7849.
And then this interview is no longer, my interviews are not found on Contact Talk Radio anymore. My shows, they're archived under my learningtantra.com under radio shows. And I'll get you a copy of that if you'd like for your records, or you can just always send people there to listen to it if they didn't hear it.
Absolutely.
And Kat, excellent. You are an intuitive body worker out of Denver. Yes, and we had a great time talking to you. I'm sure we're going to be talking to you again. We've got 1 minute to go, so thank you so much for spending time with us today.
Thank you. I really enjoyed our conversation.
And I like to hear that I practiced both celibacy and prostitution with equal abandon.
We'll have to do another show just to tap into Josh's past life history.
We will
here.
do. Yeah, we'll do that.
Excellent. I'd love to see that table.
You guys get ready out there listening to Team Tantra. We're about to be releasing a V-book, and Joshua freaks out about the V-book. It's not the vagina book. It's the video embedded e-book that is going to be coming out on Conscious Breath here in the next week or so.
I don't care what you say about it. My mind still goes to the same place.
It isn't. It's a video embedded ebook. How cool is that?
I love that.
That is ultra cool. And we have a bunch of stuff that's going to be coming out on YouTube here pretty soon. So stay tuned, see what's up. As always, drop us an email with all your questions about Tantra, love, sex, and intimacy. And take care. See you next week.
Thank you.
You have been listening to the Tantra, Love, Sex, and Intimacy Show with your host, Tanya Diamond. Visit our website at www.tanyadiamond.com. That's TANJA for more information on workshops and classes.